2 weeks in a row, we are getting awesomely bad cards. This card sucks.
Is it worth it?
What's up, nerds? Time to read the card. Redwing is a 3 energy, 4 power card that reads, the first time this moves, add a card from your hand to the old location. Overall impressions of Redwing. So at first, the card seems kind of cool, but the more I think about it or the more you try to theory craft with it, it just seems awkward and just bad. Of course, everyone has the same idea with this card. You play it with a couple of move activators and you get Infinite. Congratulations, you're a fucking genius.
Wow.
But really think about what that actually looks like in practice. That means your deck consists of, like, let's just say Iron Fist and Ghost Spider, 2 to 3 move activators, Infinite, and then what else? Maybe like War Machine. You're doing a War Machine deck, or you're using Redwing as a backup to get a big card out. But what's the rest of your deck?
I'm getting an idea. No, false alarm.
I think in reality and in practice, and like most cards that come out after a week or so, when people stop doing silly stuff with the card and experimenting and going crazy, that this card is probably just going to find its home in a, I want to say like old style move deck. Like the ones that had Heimdall and stuff, not the ones that have Beast and Falcon and shit like that. All right, the good and the bad. Dig a little deeper, see why Redwing is so awkward in my opinion. The first good here, trigger at any time in the game. A lot of cards that have really good effects, like that let you cheat stuff out. For example, Electro, let's just say. It's not good on turns 5 and 6. It's actually useless. But Redwing, you could pretty much at any point in the game make this card work and do what it's supposed to do. And that's pretty cool. The second good thing here, clever deck building. It's going to force people to be smart with how they build their decks. And I think when all said and done, if Redwing isn't actually good card or it finds a home where it excels, it's probably going to be in a deck that just looks weird at first, but when you play it and when you really think about it, it's just a smart deck. There's not many cards that do that or force that on people, but Redwing is definitely one of them. And the third thing here, I just realized I put a T on the end of high. It's supposed to be high ceiling. I'm not going to go back and do all this so I can take that T out there. But yeah, this card has a high ceiling. For 3 energy and probably 1 easy effect to move it, you can get anything out that you want. There's not really many cards that do that. I guess War Machine is comparable. Like you can get out an Infinite or just cards you wouldn't be able to play at that location or whatever. Maybe Electro, Wave. Wave goes both ways though. But this card's the stuff you can do with it is pretty high up there. But as you'll see in the next thing, is also like a low floor. On to the bad. Lowest floor of all time. Yes, this can get out some big things and cheat you some energy, but it could also pull one of your 1-drops. Say you have Ghost Spider and Iron Fist in your hand and you have Infinite. That's a 30% chance of when Redwing moves of getting the actual card you want onto the battlefield. So yeah, the difference of like what's possible with this card and also what's possible with this card down here is it's a fucking canyon.
No.
Depending on what's in your hand, this card is going to either be awesome or absolute dog water. Second thing here, not easy to use and build around. Now, I know it said it forces clever deck building, which is a good thing in the game, just in general. But there's a lot of cards that are way easier to use that give you a better or just as good benefit as Redwing. Prime example, War Machine or Electro. If you're just trying to cheat out something big with Redwing, then Electro or Wave or Psylocke all do those just as well, probably easier and better. Third thing here, easier way to cheat cards out. I sort of just said this, that it's not easy to use or build around, but yeah, all the other cards that you think of when you're like, oh, let's play big thing ahead of time, ahead of curve. All of them, in my opinion, do it with way less requirements on deck building, play style, and just how difficult it is to actually do the thing. I think Redwing's at the very bottom of that list. All right, and the last thing here, does Move even want this? Go just real quick, go to snap.fan, click on Builder, and build a deck with Redwing, a Move deck with Redwing. Is the deck better because you have Redwing in it? I don't think so. We know Bounce Move doesn't want this at all because they're playing cheap cards. So why would you want a 3/4 that basically does nothing, saves you like 1 energy, who cares? And regular move with like Magneto, Heimdall as like the either or top end. Maybe you have Arrow and Spider-Man 2099 as the 5 drops. What other cards are you really playing in the traditional move Heimdall decks where you would actually need this card? I think you're pretty much always better off just putting in like an actual move card, either a move activator or a move benefit card, like Vulture is basically what I mean. All right, onto an example deck list. Now, I said earlier that I think this, oddly enough, is comparable to War Machine, so we made a War Machine deck. I basically looked at the Lockdown War Machine decks and I was like, well, why don't we just splash a little move in there? So we have Aranya, Ghost Spider, Iron Fist to trigger Redwing or get cards into locations that we wouldn't be able to otherwise, i.e. Ebony Maw locations, to nullify Ebony Maw's downside. Basically, if you don't have War Machine, then those 3 move cards will just replace War Machine's ability, essentially. And that's what Redwing is doing here. Yeah, you can do War Machine and Redwing, which would let you cheat some cards out, an extra card out. But yeah, so our expensive things are Magneto and Infinite. Our 5 drops are Vision and Spider-Man. Getting Vision out early is fine. A lot of the 5 drops in the game are like hyper focused on specific archetypes. There's not really many that you can just kind of throw into a deck where you need big power. Vision is though, so that's why Vision's here. And we have Spider-Man 2099 because if we don't need to do the Redwing stuff, or if we have drawn a surplus of our move activators or 1-drops, then we have a reason to actually want Spider-Man 2099. I guess real quick before we move on to the next slide, this is kind of making my point though. Look at this deck. I spent like a whole day trying to figure out how best to use Redwing, and I went through every iteration of style of play that you could use Redwing in, and all of them just looked bad, or not only did it look bad, it looked like Redwing was a useless card there, and this was the best I could come up with. So this is the best Redwing has to offer, at least in my mind. Ugh, doesn't say much. Moving on. Recommendation. This week is awful. So as far as tokens go, can I recommend you getting Redwing with tokens? No, in no situation should you on day 1 spend tokens to get Redwing. Just don't do it, please, I beg you. But if he ends up being really good, or some, big brain streamer out there breaks for Redwing, you can always buy it later, but do not spend money on him without knowing if he's good or not. Now, as far as Spotlight keys go, I think this is even worse. It's just a no. Baron Zemo is only good in mill decks. You're a bad person if you play those, so you don't need Baron Zemo. Loki is just not what it used to be, and really it's only a good card in Arishem. So 2 cards that are only good in 1 deck and are also not really needed to be able to be competitive? No, I don't think spending keys on Redwing is a good idea in the slightest. And also Baron Zemo's art. That's so bad. Everything about this week is terrible. Bye.